Who were the Shona, the heart of Mutapa? The Shona are a Bantu-speaking people who've lived in what's now Zimbabwe and southern Zambia for over 1,000 years. By the 15th century, they were the backbone of the Mutapa state, a powerful kingdom known for its gold, ivory, and copper trade. The Shona weren't a single tribe, but a collection of groups, like the Karanga, Zezuru, and Manyika, united by language, culture, and a knack for building impressive societies. Their capital, Great Zimbabwe, was a marvel of stone architecture with massive walls built without mortar. By the time the Portuguese arrived, the Shona had moved their power base north to the Zambezi Valley, forming the Mutapa state. The Munhumutapa, their king, was both a political and spiritual leader, seen as chosen by ancestors. The Shona believed in a supreme god, Mwari, and revered ancestors through spirit mediums who guided everything from farming to war. Picture a society where your great-grandma's spirit might tell you when to plant crops. Pretty cool, right? The Shona were master farmers, growing sorghum and millet and herding cattle, which were a sign of wealth. They also mined gold, which they traded with Swahili merchants on the coast for luxury goods like Chinese porcelain. Their markets were lively, with traders haggling over beads, cloth, and shiny rocks. This trade made Mutapa rich and caught the eye of the Portuguese, who sailed into East Africa in the 1500s, dreaming of gold piles bigger than their ships. Imagine grand palaces with stone walls, bustling markets, and a king so wealthy that rumors of his gold reached faraway Portugal. The Mutapa wasn't an empire like Rome, but it was a well-organized kingdom with farmers, warriors, and cattle herders who paid tribute to their ruler. The Portuguese, fresh from their naval adventures around Africa, arrived on the scene in the early 1500s. After Vasco da Gama sailed around the Cape of Good Hope in 1498, they set up trading posts like Sofala and Mozambique Island, eager to grab a slice of the Indian Ocean trade. They heard tales of Mutapa's gold mines, which sounded like a jackpot to rival Spain's silver hauls in the Americas. By the 1530s, Portuguese traders were settling in Mutapa's trading towns, swapping cloth, beads, and porcelain for gold and ivory. But they weren't just traders, they had big dreams of conquest. Things got spicy in 1560 when a Jesuit priest, Father Gonçalo da Silveira, showed up at the Mutapa court. He was on a mission to convert the king to Christianity. At first, Ngoma was curious, maybe even charmed by this bold foreigner. Silveira baptized the king, calling him Sebastian, and his mother, Maria, thinking he'd scored a major win. But the Swahili traders at court, who had their own trade deals and Muslim faith, weren't thrilled. They whispered to Ngoma that Silveira was a spy for Portuguese invaders. Fearing a takeover, Ngoma flipped, renounced Christianity, and ordered Silveira's execution in March 1561. Legend has it, Silveira was thrown into a river, possibly with crocodiles as an audience. Talk about a dramatic exit. This murder lit a fuse. Back in Portugal, King Sebastian I was furious. Not only was Silveira a priest, but his death was a slap in the face to Portuguese pride. Plus, those gold mines were still calling. The Portuguese decided it was time for a full-on invasion, using Silveira's death as an excuse to punish Mutapa and grab its riches. Funny tidbit, the Portuguese were so obsessed with Mutapa's gold that they exaggerated its wealth, imagining piles of treasure like a pirate's dream. One Jesuit wrote that the Munhumutapa's mines could outshine Spain's, which was like saying, "Forget Peru, Zimbabwe's where it's at." This hype got everyone excited, but it also set them up for a big letdown. The 1569 to 1573 expedition, Francisco Barreto's big flop. In 1569, King Sebastian sent Francisco Barreto, a seasoned soldier, to conquer Mutapa. Barreto sailed from Lisbon with 3 ships, 1,000 men, and the fancy title, Conqueror of the Mines. The plan? March up the Zambezi River, crush any resistance, and seize the gold mines. Sounds simple, right? Spoiler, it wasn't. Barreto's fleet landed at Sofala in 1571, but trouble started early. The Zambezi Valley was a swampy, mosquito-filled nightmare, and Barreto's men weren't ready for it. They faced resistance from the Tonga people, called Samungazi by the Portuguese, who weren't keen on foreign invaders. These locals fought fiercely, slowing Barreto's advance along the Mazoe and Ruenya rivers. Then disease struck, likely malaria or dysentery. Soldiers started dropping like flies and supplies ran low. Father Monclaro, a Jesuit who tagged along, wrote detailed accounts, complaining about everything from the heat to the unjust Mutapa king. Negomo, the Munhumutapa, was no fool. He used diplomacy to keep Barreto at bay, sending ambassadors with vague promises of gold and peace. One clever move was gifting the Portuguese the Chicova silver mines, which may not have even existed. It was like saying, "Sure, take this treasure map to Nowhereville." Barreto wasted time chasing this decoy, never getting close to Mutapa's heartland. By 1572, with his army sick and starving, Barreto limped back to Sena, a Portuguese trading post. He died soon after, probably cursing his luck. The expedition was a total bust, and the Portuguese didn't even see a speck of Mutapa's gold. Funny story, Father Monclaro, the grumpy priest, wrote that the Mutapa people had no justice and bribed their leaders with cows. He was shocked by their customs, like when Negomo sent a cow to miners as payment for gold digging. Monclaro probably pictured a cow strolling into a mine with a paycheck, which is a hilarious image for a serious trade system. The 1574 to 1577 expedition, Vasco Fernandes, Homem's wild goose chase. Not ones to give up easily, the Portuguese tried again in 1574, this time under Vasco Fernandes Homem. With 400 men, Homem set out from Sofala, aiming for the Manica region and those elusive Chicova mines. He was determined to succeed where Barreto failed, but the Mutapa state had other plans. Homem's expedition started with a detour to Manica, a gold-producing area between Mutapa and Sofala. He took over some mines, thinking he'd hit the jackpot, but the Manica people had a surprise. They were farmers first, miners second. They only dug gold in the off-season, as it wasn't enough to live on year-round. Homem tried to force them to mine full-time, basically turning them into slaves. The Manica weren't having it. They resisted, and Homem's plan fell apart. Imagine him shouting, "Mine faster," while locals shrugged and went back to their crops. Next, Homem chased the Chikova silver mines, still believing Negomo's gift. He reached Chikova, built a fort, and sent men to explore, but the locals led his troops into an ambush, wiping out many of them. By 1576, a new Portuguese governor arrived, signaling the end of Homem's mission. He gave up and sailed back to Mozambique Island, leaving behind a half-built fort and no silver. Unlike most of his men, Homem made it back to Portugal, probably with a long list of complaints for King Sebastian. Funny tidbit, the Chikova mines were such a myth that Homem's men spent months wandering, asking locals, "Where's the silver?" The locals likely smirked, pointing to random hills, knowing full well there was nothing there. It's like a 16th century treasure hunt gone wrong, with the Portuguese as clueless pirates. Aftermath, Mutapa's resilience and Portuguese puppets. The failed invasions didn't topple Mutapa, but they stirred up trouble. In 1569, Negomo died, sparking a civil war. The Portuguese, ever opportunistic, backed Gatsi Rusere to become Munhumutapa. In return, Gatsi gave them land and trade perks, like a deal with a shady real estate agent. By the 1590s, Portuguese traders were deeper in Mutapa's politics, meddling in disputes and wars. By 1629, things got worse. The Munhumutapa, Nyambo Kapararidze, tried to kick the Portuguese out. He failed, and the Portuguese overthrew him, installing Mavura Mhande Felipe as a puppet king. Mavura signed treaties making Mutapa a Portuguese vassal, promising gold mines and land. But these deals were mostly hot air. Mutapa kept its independence, barely. The Portuguese set up prazos, large estates along the Zambezi, where they used slave labor to farm and mine. This caused chaos, pushing many Shona people to flee south, where a new power, the Rozvi state, was rising. In the 1660s, a reformist Munhumutapa Mukombwe fought back. With help from the Tonga and Manica, he drove Portuguese prazeros, landholders, off their estates. By 1694, a combined Mutapa-Rozvi force pushed the Portuguese out of Zimbabwe's highlands, ending their dreams of conquest. The Portuguese stuck to their coastal posts, licking their wounds. Mutapa itself faced challenges. Civil wars, rebellions, and trade disruptions weakened it over time. By the 19th century, it was a shadow of its former self, confined to a small area. Portuguese prazo holders and Ngoni invasions further battered it, and by 1884, the state was effectively gone. Still, Mutapa's resistance in the 16th and 17th centuries showed its strength and cunning against a global superpower. Funny story, in the 1630s, Portuguese commander Diogo Meneses led an army to reinstall Mavura. He boasted about his victory, claiming his brilliant tactics won the day, but his 12,000 African allies likely did most of the work. Picture Meneses striking a heroic pose while his allies muttered, "Yeah, right, we carried you." Why it's fun to watch. This story is like a historical action comedy. The Portuguese march in with big dreams of gold, only to be outsmarted by a clever king. Negomo's fake mine gifts are pure genius, like sending treasure hunters on a prank mission. The expeditions are full of brave moves and silly mistakes. Soldiers fighting mosquitoes, priests whining about cows, and commanders chasing myths. Mutapa's clever diplomats and tough warriors make you cheer for the underdog. Imagine it as a movie. Epic river battles, sweaty Portuguese swatting bugs, and Ngomo smirking as he tricks the invaders. Key takeaways. Before 1569, Mutapa was a wealthy trade hub, but Portuguese greed and Silveira's murder set the stage for conflict. 1569 to 1573, Barreto's invasion flopped due to disease, Tonga resistance, and Ngomo's sly diplomacy. 1574 to 1577, Homem's expedition failed after chasing fake mines and clashing with Manica farmers. Aftermath. Mutapa survived but faced civil wars and Portuguese meddling. By 1694, it teamed up with the Rozvi to kick the Portuguese out, though it later declined. The Portuguese invasions of the Mutapa state from 1569 to 1577 were a thrilling chapter in Shona history where brains triumphed over brawn. The Shona, the heart of Mutapa, built a vibrant kingdom with gold mines, stone palaces, and a deep belief in Maori and their ancestors. When the Portuguese sailed in, dreaming of gold, the Shona outsmarted them. Munhumutapa Ngomo tricked invaders with fake silver mines, while warriors and allies like the Tonga fought back. Despite civil wars and Portuguese meddling, the Shona's resilience shone through, pushing invaders out by 1694 and shaping Zimbabwe's proud identity. This story of cunning and courage shows how the Shona turned a superpower's greed into a legendary tale of resistance. Want to dive deeper into the Shona's epic saga or Zimbabwe's rich history? Subscribe to our channel for more stories of Shona heroes and hidden treasures. Drop a comment below. Would you have fallen for Ngomo's fake mind trick? Share this video with friends to spread the word about Shona's incredible legacy, and check out our next video on Sunday. Let's keep exploring history together.